Okay, we're gonna go up the steps. She was always over here looking over and watching. And then I explained to you in the class, when I was digging in the second hole, she was standing right here. And when I looked up, I could see her just, beaming down on me because she knew what was gonna happen. I was maybe 3 feet away from the body. And then the next moment, she sent one of her friends out and they stopped me and said she needed to speak to me. So she knew this was it. If we would have found the second body with her here, she would have had no place to escape to. So she took the opportunity to stop me, bring me up, ask me some questions. And it was then that she wanted to go for a walk to have a cup of coffee. And then everything from that point on was history. She gets over into the hotel, she grabs a cab and she takes off. Only minutes later, when I find the second body, we go back over to get her and she's gone. And so actually when she left, it was better for us because we didn't have to deal with her anymore. We were able to freely tear up the entire yard. And of course, with her taking off, gave us probable cause that we could go and get a search warrant, and we went back into the house. When I came here with her parole officer and my partner, Terry Brown, she greeted us at this door, and then when I asked if we could come in, she brought us right in, right here. And we stood there, and she stood here facing us. And you can see how small she is. So that's when I did my question, asking her, we were here about Bert, and we just needed to follow up on it, trying to find out and resolve the situation, find out what happened. But in here, if you saw today, this was her bookshelf, and then there was a sofa here. But other than that, this is the exact room. The floors in the property are the original floors. So everything in here is original. Only the kitchen has been modified, but all the floors, especially the floors in the death room, they're the same floors that all the body fluids seep through. They took and sanded them out, and Tom and Barbara used that as their bedroom.
Really?
So, and we'll go through that. But this is the living room. You can see how small it is. You can see how small. Resource-wise, she really used this house to cover up a lot of her needs. So all of this is blocked off. The kitchen is blocked off, other than this area right here. And so this was her bedroom. This room here was her bedroom. And this is where I found gloves and the Dalmane capsules in the drawers, all in here. Lots of like Gina tape. I don't think people use that these days. She had big bottles of Gina tape, but if you were spending somebody else's money, you would be buying a lot of stuff too. Then coming in here, the table had a lot of things on it. This is where I would find a lot of paperwork, a lot of driver's licenses. That book I showed you, the book and the drugs. But when I first came through, you're coming through very quickly. I'm looking for a man, and I'm not paying much attention here. And you may find yourself doing that. But on the second trip through, then it was a little bit more different. I was more focused. You start looking for everything that could possibly be part of the evidence of these crimes. And of course, it was. Driver's licenses with their picture and the victims' names on them. So this was already set in motion. Using this room to prep her victims for the ground, there was no odor. I didn't smell anything. Let's come into here because now we're going to enter the death room. Okay? But anyway, Dorothea would bring her victims in here. This bed was not here. There was a day bed right here. And then that door was blocked off. So the individual, John McCauley, who lived on the very back porch, never had access into this area. So she could do what she wanted, literally. And so she would bring the bodies in and lay them here, and this is where she would prep them. Now, they may be in here for maybe 2, maybe 3 weeks until she could get her guys digging holes, and that she could prep the body and get it into the ground. But this is where she brought everybody. This is what the pictures that you saw, where the body fluids had evacuated from the victim. And that's when I was like, whoa, the stench was so bad. And so we pulled it all back, and then we could see the stain in the floor and everything. But the floors, these are the original floors. Nothing has changed in here. All they did was sand them, clean them up, and then revarnish them again. But everything is the same. Everything was the same. From here, now I'm going to take you into the back area, and I'm going to tell you now, she didn't take the victims through here because this was closed off. So she would have taken the victims back out through the kitchen, dragging them or carrying or however, who the person was that helped her, they would carry the bodies and I'll take you down to the stairwell where she'd take the bodies that they could get out to the backyard. Now, of all the money that was missing, we never recovered any of it. And I did search warrants on all the banks. I did search warrants on the owners' banks. I found no big sums of money. I've always concluded that the money was sent to Mexico, so it could never be found here. We found hardly anything. I mean, when I arrested her, she had $2,500 of cash on her. I would subsequently have to return that money to her, which we booked as evidence, because we couldn't prove that it was part of the crime. And so the judge had us release it back to her on her books in the Sacramento County Jail. But anyway, this was this was John McCauley's living quarters. All it was just a little tiny area back here. When she had the bodies, they came through the kitchen. She came out of the death room, around through the kitchen, and they would come through here. By however means. If they drug them, because they were bundled up now, most of them were bundled up. They drug them, and then they took them down the stairwell. I told you about the guy that lived under the stairwell? Yep. He lived here. He was paying such a big amount of money. He had a little cot in here, but this was what he considered his room while he was here. And he was kind of suspicious. He was the one that actually started getting things going for us also. Because it was some of his statements talking about, Ben Fink was missing 3 weeks earlier before Bert. And he just thought, things were different. Now, John Sharp was a retired mortician. And so he had mentioned that, there were times when there was odors, and I could pick up the odors because I'm a mortician. These are the rooms she rented out. These are the rooms she rented out. So the tenants stayed down here. When one would come up missing, another one would come in and take their room over. Just call social services, hey, send over another one. So it was kind of like when one's gone, another one would fill the space. So these are the rooms. They could come out here during their time. They could maybe watch TV or play cards, do whatever. But what we found down here was, this was right here, there was shelves here. And on the shelves was rolls of duct tape. And it was just like everything was sitting out here. It's like here's rolls of duct tape. We found sheets. On some of the bodies you saw sheets, like a colored sheet or something. We would find the other half in here. We would find the other half. If she used the bottom sheet, the top sheet was in here. So we were just finding everything. I believe she was so secure in her mind that she would never be found out, that she could go and leave all these things here. She didn't have to put them away or get rid of them like duct tape, in which a lot of the victims had on them. But she never felt that it was necessary because she really, I think, truly believed she would never be found out. She had the perfect crime going on here in this house. She entered into the criminal justice system quite early as a juvenile. And from that point on, it just kind of went on until eventually she ended up in state prison. And then subsequently decided the way she was taking money from these recipients of Social Security, that wasn't good enough. She was going to figure, I'll just find the perfect plan. You find sick people that are dying, and then you bring them in, you take care of them, and when you think, you bury them. No family, because the people that lived here really had no families.